Good evening, citizens, and welcome to a Shattersong LARP Diaries episode. We're going to continue talking about Empire E1 2025. I am once again joined by my erstwhile companion. Erstwhile companion, reveal yourself.
Nobody shock and horror, it's me again. Hi.
Hi again, how are you?
I'm all right. I can't speak properly.
Oh,
I'm really
sorry, did I
excited
misname you?
and
Sorry. Hi, I can't speak properly. How are you doing?
um I'm excited, but I'm also a little bit like sad to relive this Saturday again. I feel like this is going to be cathartic to talk about, but also a little bit like, oh damn, we really went through that.
Yeah, considering we're recording 2 days, well, yeah, 3 days after this happened, it's still quite raw, isn't it?
Hmm. I mean, we said we might do a separate episode on like character deaths and post LARP drop, but I'd heard you speak about it before. But I didn't think it would hit this hard, and I didn't think it was actually as real as it is. But um, yeah, it was weird, like coming back to like normal civilization this time. Usually, it's just we stop by a cheeky KFC, debrief, and that sweet gravy brings you back to normal life. But this time, it just didn't work, and I think we're still a bit both rattled by it. So let's go.
Yeah. So Friday was the pinnacle. Saturday is a bloodbath, and unfortunately, it's
Doomsday.
it's not just limited to the battle in the morning. Um, should we tell the story backwards, like all those edgy TV series do, where you know the outcome and then you want to fill in the details?
Yeah, I guess so. So, I mean, we could start by revealing how many of the Pine Wheels made it through the weekend. How
Yeah. So the Pine Wheels
many?
mercenary banner of 10 soldiers took 80% KIA on Saturday. We
Yeah,
lost
it was
8 out
rough.
of 10 of our members overall, and it was rough, really rough. Um, we'll talk about who they were and how that happened now, I guess. But now you know the story. This mercenary company that has so suddenly and forcefully shot through the ranks and it's got itself its first contract and is full of piss and vinegar, ready to take on anything. But whilst they might be ready to take on anything, they weren't prepared for it to bite back.
Yeah, I mean, up until now, we lost Platimir, who this might sound really mean actually, but I think because it was my first event, I didn't feel obviously I feel very close to you, but I didn't feel close to Platimir in a way. Even though he was, I see my husband, there was just something about the time we spent socializing in Anvil that wasn't a lot because I spent more time learning the world than learning my sort of fellow Pine Wheels, which might have been a mistake on my half. But because we spent time now over this weekend and the previous events, we really felt like a family. We went through a lot with each other on the last event, and then Friday was just such a nice day that we didn't think it'd go downhill from there.
Yeah, I think Bletimir dying was a sad note, but
Mm.
he was my first ever Varushkin character, and he'd only been around for 3 events. But yeah, for the actual family being around, it had only really been, I'd say, E1 and a little bit of E4, but yeah, this was, we were really bonding very quickly on Friday night, which makes this even sadder.
Yeah. So where do we start?
I think we start at 10 o'clock timing, unless you want to talk about the showers, which are lovely and hot, by the way.
I mean, that's yeah, that was a nice way to start the morning. But 10 o'clock timing, what happened? We did drill, I think, if
We did
I'm right.
indeed. Yes, we
We
got
did.
ourselves over to the Wick's Rest camp for 10:05. The plan was immediately changed because I'd had a quick time-ish. Time-ish is an expression for if like it's 9:30 in the morning and you want to start role playing, you're already in kit, then you can't do anything official, but go for it, whatever. Same for things at like 3:30 on a Sunday afternoon if you're trading. No one's going to stop you because it's time out. Just it's time-ish. Saying like between 5 and 6 p.m. on a Friday evening, classic time-ish. But anyway, I'd caught up with Cadwell, general of a Sailor's Dance, may they rest in peace. And I'm shocked to find out that half of Navarre are allegedly, on the rumor mill, not going to fight. And I believe this because Farushka's also in a similar situation, where a lot of groups are considering not fighting for the Empire on principle because they wanted to go to Tharunin, and the broad plan was for them to go up to the gates and to just drop their weapons and go home. And I
Yeah.
and I thought, oh
And
fuck, that's a
and
bad
I think
start.
it was a really bad start, especially when we've just finished 20 minutes of again reiterating to Wick's Rest that this will be an easy battle that we can all get out of. And then you bounding over from the Navari forest, like, so we might have half the forces we were promised as backup, and watching all their faces fall. But did anyone actually throw their weapons down? I didn't see that.
No, so the idea was that as Farushkans, I was going to stand up with the banner, so I went over there with Sigmir to basically say to Navarre, like, hey, 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 listen here, kiddos. None of us want to go to Madruga. Suck it up. The end. We did not get to give that speech, but we walked around and met a few of the Navari and just said, cousins, we stand alongside you, and just working through the ranks and just saying like, hey, remember this face. It's on your side, because this battle was against the Children of Rex, who are Siaka cultists, very aggressive, very violent. They have more navies from the Brass Coast at the moment because they have one, and the Brass Coast has none. In fact, some of the former Brass Coast Navy, the Freeborn Storm, is currently being used by the Children of Rex in a real
Dear.
fuck you to the only maritime nation in the Empire. That must really hurt. But anyway, I digress. Um, the Children of Rex have got former Imperial citizens on their side. So there are Varushkans, Highborn, Urizeni, and Brass Coast on the field. Now, Varushka as a nation is not taking the battlefield on Saturday, so that should have been fine. Except if you have gone and got yourself a mercenary banner, promised to fight for Navarre, and now you and your Varushkan friends, 10 of them, and only 10 of them, a small contingent, are suddenly on the battlefield where there are traitor Varushkans in the enemy ranks. It put us in an extremely dangerous position before we even got onto the battlefield. And the broader objective was to capture some planks of woods that are from a magical ship, and the idea is to stop the Children of Rex resupplying and doing other things that would help them.
And we'll get onto it in a bit, but for us, that objective at best was a little bit like, okay, this is we'll go do it because we're getting paid. But realistically, when we could have been in Tharunin, this feels a bit redundant. But then we saw those actual planks on the field, and it was kind of heartbreaking to know that things were going to go sour because that's what we were fighting for. But anyway, we get to the gate, we're ready to go in, and Wick's Rest have bought us all, little potions of courage and things to boost our
Oh,
confidence,
I
and
haven't
we
paid
do
them
this
for that
lovely.
either. Oh no.
That's 7 crowns, I think.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh no.
Resume was going to pay them, but who knows?
The company is going to pay them. Oh God.
Um, so we have a really lovely sort of time in warm up, and because there's only 10 Varushkins there, we make sure our voices are some of the loudest, and Varushka has a wonderful chance, so we bellowed from the rooftops as we went in, and I think we were maybe the loudest nation there, even though there was 10 of us.
Yeah, the Davari were trying to treat it a bit like a funeral procession, and
Yeah.
we were like, haha, beat that Davari, and they said we're in mourning. So I was like, oh, in my head I'm like, ah, oh, damn, that's heavy. And then my Varushkan character's like, ha, the only ones in mourning should be the enemy. We're gonna fuck them up. And massively overconfident because of the potions we've had. It's like +1 hit point, but you feel ultra confident and ready to go for anything. Um,
And we had a bit of excitement as well because we got to fight alongside Blackscar, who are your kind of former group when you were playing, Ban and Linda, and I don't think we've had a chance to properly fight alongside them before. I might be wrong. But
yeah,
that
not as
was
Pine
nice.
Wheels.
It felt like the Avengers. It genuinely felt like we had Corwin as our sort of Tony Stark, and then we had these Varushkins come in, these really high skilled Navari group come in, and we were going to go fuck them up.
Yeah, and Black Scar have got maybe 15 fighters on the field. We've got our 10, and we're reasonably evenly matched because they've got a little bit lighter armor, they're a little bit more mobile, but we are, seven of us are in full heavy with shield, swords, and helmets. We are absolutely stacked up. I think we've got like 10 to 13 hit points for each frontliner, and
And also, quick shout out to the Wix Restlake heavy unit because there was only seven of us and they learnt the calls that morning. But we were very slick and put together as a unit. You know, when you shouted an order, it happened instantly afterwards. There was no one sort of who didn't know what they weren't, who never knew. Wait, what am I trying to say? Who never didn't know what they were doing? Did I get
yeah,
there?
yeah,
Maybe.
everyone knew what
Yeah.
they were
There
doing.
we go. Mhm.
Yeah,
It was good.
there was not anyone who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's English. That's how English works, right?
Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, close enough.
Anyway, we get on the field and we start in the forest and Grendel emerge in I'd say quite small packs, maybe packs of 5 or 6 here or there, relatively okay to take down, and we're pretty confident because this seems to be a relatively easy fight.
I don't know
You
what.
get the order from
Sorry to interrupt. I
Life,
don't
I
know what
think.
you were seeing, but we were facing up against units of 20.
Is it 20? I felt very small.
Yeah, because they were about five wide, but they were, three or four ranks deep because the forest kind
Oh
of
yeah,
channels
true.
units in. And
Yeah.
you're right, the first half of the fight goes well for us, but we have I think, some of the best and most heroic actions I have ever encountered in LARP.
It was a
Full
very
stop.
cinematic fight. I think we did some incredible sort of shield wall things that pushed. There
Hell
was several
yeah, we
groups that we
did.
managed to push back.
Twice. Yeah,
Um,
twice. There's
yeah, it
I
felt
can
very
see it now.
dynamic.
Yeah, we go in, blah blah blah, battle lines form. We're at the front with Black Scar. Our job is to anchor their left so they can always flank round the right. And in front of us is a unit of maybe 20 Grendel. And there's only 10 of us. There's a bunch of Navari supporting us, but they count as maybe, one or two people. It's a bunch of random mages with us for some inexplicable reason. Anyway, Blythe is like, not Pletimir, sorry, Resimir, do what you want. We need to clear through our section. I'm like, okay, cool. Look the Grendel dead in the eye and go Pine Wheels, kneel. And in unison, all of you just one knee on the floor and you plant your shields, daring the bastards to come for us. And this, well, I've got to give credit to Navarre. They instinctively put their spears over the top.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was very slick.
And I was like, oh my god, is this about to work? And the Grendel are like, well, go on, let's get him then. And they run at us, and we were outnumbered 2-1 easily. And they surge forward, but this is the overpowered section of the overpowered dynamic of the knee is that you can't give ground if you're scared or if you're instinctively trying to back off from someone running at you. You kind of duck a little bit behind your shield, which made you all very hard to hit. And you push your shields up and you kept them all away from you, and they kind of just stood there battering, not really doing much. And then the Navari is stabbing at them with their spears. They back off about 5 meters, and they're out of ideas because they've charged, they've given it their all. It hasn't worked. And then it's Pine Wheels on your feet. What do you see? And then a scream of Plague Wolf, and then we all surge forwards, and this unit just breaks. The Grendel just break. Proper Rome Total War style where they're turning tail and running. The Navari are running after them and like cleaving off their legs. They actually leaving for us, and you guys are like jogging forwards, just crushing any Grendel who are trying to stand their ground, like absolutely butchering them. I think we do this twice over the course of maybe 20 meters in the forest, and I think we killed at least 50 Grendel because two units
Oh,
hit
we
us
really pushed them back. Yeah, we
easily.
really
Yeah,
pushed them back.
yeah.
I think
Two
that's
sections
where
were
we
kneeling.
I think that's where we obtained the first plank as well. I think there were some Dornish who were nearby, and we sort of heard the cheers go up. So they got the first plank in the forest,
Yeah,
and that's when I think the battle, turned towards the main field, which is where things, our confidence was a bit misplaced. I think as we pushed forward.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We
so
went
we get to
to
the gate
yeah.
and we
Sorry,
go
go on.
through. We get to the gate and we go through. And I want to say there's sort of two lines of Grendel. There's one as you come straight out the gate, and then one a little bit to the right near the forest. That's the direction we take. We
Yeah,
go to
and
the
it's
right, we meet up with Navarre, and we start pushing.
yeah, and it's worth noting at this point, PD, please do this again. They've totally blocked off Midgate. So Midgate is tightly blocked. We've got to go through Top Gate to get onto the main big field, which turns the whole battlefield into one big horseshoe. And it felt longer. It felt much more dynamic. There was no city gate fight. It was fantastic. Really felt quite cool and dynamic. And like you said, Amber, we go through. We form up on the right with Black Scar, and there's this wonderful little unit trying to bait us out, and we catch him.
And this is where I guess things start going downhill because we've pushed them back. We've then moved further down the field. We've got the rest of the Empire's forces still quite towards the top fighting that other line. And us and Black Scar have moved significantly towards the next objective, which is the next plank, which we see.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they get it. Um,
Well, not
and at
quite.
this point, we have to apologize to. Well, no, actually, we don't need to
No, no, no.
apologize
We're
to the
skipping
Scarlet
ahead. We're
Guard.
skipping ahead. No, the plank is set up in the middle of the field, maybe about like 10 meters away from the corner of the copse. People who know Empire will know what I mean. And then these two Grendel pick it up off its little support beam and start to jog away with it. And immediately, me and Rizar are looking at each other like that's a trap. They're both Black Scarlet Pine Wheels and some randoms. Go for them because Corbin's like chase it down, and we're like, oh shit, we've got to commit at this point. So we go in, we get pulled massively out of line, and of course there's an ambush on the right. But luckily we're able to repel, and we almost get to the plank. I think no, we do get to the plank, and so Corwin starts to carry it away with one of the other Navari, and he's like, "Good work, Pine Wheels, well done, good shit." And then I'm like, "Right, cool, we need to pull out because this is crazy. We're massively overexposed. We're maybe 30 meters behind the enemy line. They could wrap us as soon as they notice us." And then at this point, the Grendel don't notice us, but the fucking Shark Heralds do. Five of them
Yep.
just pour out of nowhere. I'm like, where the hell did they come from? And immediately start to engage us. And it is a desperate fight because we're under a miasma-like effect on this battlefield because of Siaka, where if you're not anointed to any virtue before going in, then you feel bloodlust, rage. You ignore orders, and I think at this point in the battlefield, people remember that, and suddenly it just goes berserk. So there's this sort of very spaced out, swirling melee where Grendel are getting looped together with Pine Wheels, and we're getting looped together with random Navari and a couple of Urizen at this point, and this salient is starting to extend, and we're trying to get it back as quickly as possible because it could be snipped
Yeah.
off by 10 people showing up at any point, and I just cannot get all of you to disengage. I just can't, and I'm losing my losing my mind trying to get all of you to listen because of course it's hard. You can't hear me slash one of you's had your legs cleaved, so you're trying to get people out, and then the second you get them up, someone else loses their leg, and then if you want two people to drag them, you can't because then the heralds will close in, and they were literally playing like sharks with blood in the water. So whenever someone went down, they would then go and surround that person with a ruined limb
Yeah.
because they could smell the
I
blood.
have I have never seen these fuckers on the field before, and they are terrifying. Like they're something out of Doctor Who, like good Doctor Who, back in the David Tennant era. Um, 'Cause they're for those who've never seen them, they're literally just like white masks with teeth and two kind of slits for eyes. They're really scary. If I saw them at night, would probably just leave the battlefield. Um, they were vicious and they kept going for our legs. And at one point they got mine. I went down. And one of our Wix rest healers came over to like heal my leg. And then someone pushed them out of the way and was like, "Don't worry, I'll do it." And it was Blythe again. So we had another little moment on the field, and I think that's when you were losing your shit in the background, which was really funny. Um, but I think the reason we kind of split objectives a little bit was we saw one of our Wix friends, Wix Rest friends, Slavomir, go after these heralds,
Yeah, he was
and
chasing
we
them.
chasing them down literally, and we were like, "Hang on, we've promised Wix Rest not to leave their friends behind to get them all back safely." So we part a little bit. Some of us go to get Slavomir, give him some backup, and then when we return, we've sort of got some kind of configuration back. I think this is where we come back and you've started a fight with someone.
Yeah. So not content to kill the enemy, I want to also kill my friends. So um, whilst that's going on, I don't think you guys realise just how badly exposed you are.
Yeah.
Where me and two other people are covering about 30 meters of ground, and the Grendel are starting to realise, and they're just jogging in. So we're having to do some suicidal countercharging where I ran at three Grendel and just swung my axe a bunch, getting them pale off on one of their legs, and then back off, basically screaming at them to fuck off or die trying. And they're all starting to realise the sharks need a bit of support because Slaramir is basically 1v5ing them. And then they're
Yeah.
starting
And
to
these are
gang up.
heralds.
Yeah, these are
These
heralds.
aren't.
And I'm just shrieking because I can see it all happening clear as day. And I know the second, you've got about this whole overextension lasted about 3 minutes. But on the battlefield, that's a lifetime. And I can see for a good 60 seconds, I'm watching it happen in slow motion, the destruction of my company. And then I see a large unit that is doing nothing to fill the gap, and that unit is the Scarlet Guard of Urizen. Now, this is where, because it's my podcast, I get to give my point of view, but I will give you their point of view to be balanced and objective as much as possible. But from Resume's point of view, these cowards, these cowards, were just sat there watching us get butchered, and they start to advance maybe in the final minutes of this 3 minute escalation, right? And as they finally show up, I'm like, where the fuck have you been, you cowards, you fucking idiots? And I just so happened to catch their captain, and he
Furious.
understandably goes back at me like, how dare you call us cowards? I'm like, fucking say it to my face, you coward. And he comes up and we start chest bumping, and it's proper like, rugby, kind of on the edge of a fist fight, kind of
Yeah.
pushing and shoving. And it was so cool because we are fucking screaming at each other, spittle is going everywhere. I'm pointing at you lot as the sharks are ripping you apart. he he's pointing at his unit as they're taking the flank, and they're saying, well, we're here to save you. If you want us to save you, then shut the fuck up. I'm like, oh, fuck you. And he's like, no, fuck you. And one of his like lieutenants comes over to try and calm him down. Doesn't have any effect. And you know that video of that road rage, like, oh, you fucking fuck, fuck you, no, fuck you. It was literally that scene again. So OC, I'm loving it because it's burning off all the rage, which is nice. But IC, Reservoir is furious because as we turn around, we start a major Grendel unit has moved to counter the Scarlet Guard. So we pick up what's left of the Pine Wheels. I think at this point, two of Wick's Rest are cut off, and we just don't see them because we have about 15 seconds to form up next to Urizen. But because this Grendel unit is coming into us, well, there's like five of us, so we move to the other side of them. So we run around to their right flank. I remember screaming, "Run to the woods! Run to the woods!" And the idea was to basically punch a gap into the woods so we had somewhere to run. So they had somewhere to extend to into as well. That didn't work because there were Grendel in the woods as well, and Grendel in front of us, and Grendel behind us. So we run to the woods anyway, and we have to punch through another unit of Grendel, which we barely managed to do. But as we turn around, we just see the Scarlet Guard getting. They're not coming through behind us. I'm screaming like, "Come on, come on! Reform a line. We need to get out of here. You're going to get kesseled." They've already been kesseled. It's already over for them. And at this point, I'd like to whip out the quote from the captain of the Scarlet Guard. So let's see if I can find it on our cheery, cheery Discord.
You should probably add in as well what we found out towards the end of the event. Um, we thought maybe that was just a sort of battle engagement that they might forget about. No, they didn't forget. They went straight to the Courage Assembly, um, where they dobbed us in.
Yeah,
They
they
dobbed
dobbed
us
us
in,
in.
and
They said that
they made it
the
fairly
cowardly
clear.
Farishkans fled through them, which I think fled is a strong word. We fell back through them. And to quote the captain, from so starting at the top again before they came to help us, we did not follow them in when they advanced because we had not been given orders to do so. So one of them turned around and called the Scarlet Guard cowards. Now, we are many things, but we aren't that. We just wait for orders before going anywhere. I didn't take that and told the character in question to go fuck himself. It escalated from there. So they withdrew, and we got enveloped and lost 8. Which, you know what, feels
It
like
shouldn't.
it feels fair. They didn't punch up and support us. We lost 2 of Wick's Rest. And then they lost 8 as we abandoned them. And I think that's fair play.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's unfortunate, but if they maybe moved a little bit quicker, and took initiative, they maybe would still be here today.
exactly. I feel I see utterly nothing when I see that
Yeah.
eight dead Urizeni sentinels. OC, I'm like, damn, those are some heavy casualties for Urizen. But from our point of view, I'm almost like, yeah, you deserve it. Cowards die in shame.
I mean, also at this point, the Pine Wheels have we've done our pay worth. We've, pretty much helped secure 2 of these planks. The people at the top are securing the third, and I'm pretty sure it's just 3 planks we needed. And so, of course, when we've said to our brothers, sisters, and cousins that we're getting you back home safe, we've got our money's worth. We're getting out of there. We're not hanging around because, the Irizeni are incapable of engaging. We're just getting out. But getting out
Yeah.
was a lot harder than we planned.
Oh God, it was. So we've punched into the woods, into the copse, sorry, and we've already taken a battering doing so, and we turn around, we watch the unit that battered us. Instead of pursuing us, they turn to envelop the Scarlet Guard, and we're like, oh, fuck. And we've got some scattered elements of Black Scar with us as well. And then on the other side of the copse, I think, right, that's where the Imperial line is. Wrong. Their line has been broken, so the Scarlet Guard are entirely behind the enemy line as well. So it's a relatively thin line from the Grendel, maybe about 20 or 30 of them in skirmish, but we're behind them. And this point is where the psychology kicks in, where I try and get us and whoever's left of Black Scar to form up and just pretend like we're attacking. And I remember screaming to the woods like, "Pretend we're about to charge! Pretend we're about to charge!" Because we do not have the numbers to take him. But they don't know that. All they know is that we're a large band of Imperials coming out of the woods, and if we rear charge them, they might panic and break. That does not work. we
Yep.
we charge
I, I
them.
think
Oh, go on.
I think at this point as well, we get up to the top of the field and you say, Annika, I need you to hold off these 20 and pretend you're going to charge while I get the others, or something like that. And I was like,
Yeah,
and
because
me and Oz end up together, like trying to sort of look intimidating. Clearly doesn't work because they all just come over and crunch us. We get completely cut off from you guys, and Ostomy gets lost in a sort of 2v1. Me and Pete from Black Scar go down, and we end up like maybe 10 seconds from death until we both sort of help each other out. Pete gives me like I think it's, is it a last resort? I'm not sure what the potion is.
oh, that's what they
Um,
call their last resorts, which is one of them. There's a healing potion, an anti-cleave potion, and then something else I think as well.
I'm not sure what it is, but it makes me get up to my feet. I can do sort of stay with me, and we get some healers in, and that's when we find out that 2 of Wick's Rest have died in the woods. Um, and we then go and sort of try and take out some last Grendel who is surrounding us. And I think that's when you come back with the other Pine Wheels that you managed to get out.
Yeah, so we were trying to break out. We get charged and we get put down. I think Ostermir has actually won his 2v1 because he's one of the people who comes to save me with the remnants of the Scarlet Guard. Sorry, no, not Scarlet Guard. It's another spire in Urizen. But I'm shrieking because I know that all of you have gone down just a bit behind me, right up
Yeah.
just next to. I'm sure listeners will know where the mid gate is. Follow that fence down to where the cops kind of starts. It's that area, right, sort of right at the top of the path that goes direct to Monster. And that's where our disparate band of maybe 15 players has gone down. Of our breakout attempt, only 20% of people have actually gotten through. And I can see, and Ostomy is one of those people, and I can see him trying to get someone, anyone, to help break back through to get to us. And it is a desperate fight. I'm shrieking, hurry up, we've got like 30 seconds left and stuff like that. And they eventually get to us, and the like the relief of seeing him and getting them there lasts about 15 seconds because at that point I'm like, right, potion, bosh, ignore me, get to the others. You have to keep pushing. There's another 10 meters of ground to take. And the Imperials do manage to take it. And then, unfortunately, this is where we start to realize that we're missing people. So we're rallying on the banner, and we're missing 3 of us at this point. And the Wick's Rest are understandably furious. Slaromir's gone. One of their healers is gone. I can't remember the pronunciation of their character name. I'm so sorry. And we've also lost Michaeli at this point. So we're snap decision. We're like, right, we just got to recommit and find them. Simple as. Yeah, the Arisen are struggling to push up on our flank. Black Scar started to reform after a battering as well, and then in we go. And what we find is after the near massacre of our units right next to the gate, is that some of them had been pushed even deeper. And at this point, Black Scar end up finding Michaeli terminal on the floor after having held his ground for about a minute or two after we had all got crumped. And he'd just been slowly pushed back towards Monster and had unfortunately bled out. But he wasn't dead just yet. He was in a terminal state. So the heroes have gone through and collected all the bodies they can. And the Grendel have rallied and they're starting to push us back out the copse again. And at this point, the Imperial line is close to buckling, especially around Midgate. So it's at this point, Isa of the Black Scar drops off Michaeli in front of us. And we're like, oh no, Michaeli, and tears are starting to form. And then we see the Imperials starting to back off, and the Siaka Heralds, the shark people, are lurking in the bushes, and they're pointing at everybody who's down and getting healed. Me and Michaeli look at that, we look at each other, and Rezimir says to Michaeli, I'm not going to leave you to the sharks, brother. Michaeli nods, and with tears in his eye, Rezimir stands up, hefts his axe, and beheads Michaeli. Execute. He drops to the floor, and at this point, I think it's only at this point other Imperials start to realize what's just happened, and they haven't got time to process it because we're already being pushed out. And I think the final thing for Michaeli is that Isa puts his helmet in his hands, so there is this beheaded body holding his own helmet. But as a veteran of the Iron Helms, Michaeli died with his iron helm within his grip. A very fitting end for an outstanding soldier. And at this
Yeah.
point, we're trudging, we're out of energy, we're trying to walk back to top gate. The Imperial line is just getting pushed back, and it's starting to form a crush, but maybe a crush of 300 people. And we eventually get back through the top gate. There's almost a traffic jam, and every second you're delaying in these traffic jams. And dear listeners, if you ever end up in a retreat, jog or walk quickly, because the slower you go, you slow everybody down behind you, and that will get players killed on the other end of the queue.
What's also quite frustrating, I remember actually saying to someone, so as we're getting through the gate, there's someone on the side who's like, everyone coming through, regroup here, make another line, push them back. And I'm like, I turn around to him and I'm like, you need to just let people go. Like, because if you form up another line here, people who are on the other side can't get back into safety. So I was like, that's such a dumb idea. And I don't think he liked it very much, but we were in mourning, so I apologize to that player if it was a bit snappy.
Mm.
Um,
Oh, I
but
forgot. I forgot the War Rhino bit. That was
yeah, that was horrific.
good God, yeah. So I don't. This was before the whole Michaeli thing. I think it was after the extension, the overextension.
It was just after we got Wixrest back from the plank. It just sort of crept up the field.
Yeah, I don't know how the fuck that thing teleported, but it got behind us. And the
Yeah.
last,
Well,
like, oh, we're getting, sorry to interrupt, but I've got to say how it is.
I know.
We get fucked because
Mhm.
we're getting kind of crushed by the Grendel, and I turn around to run, and it's there. It's 2 meters away. So me and some Urizeni, one of them actually falls to the floor from taking like a strike down right into the path of the Rhino, and it just goes over him. Like the head part actually just envelops this Urizeni Sentinel. So before Pletimir's eyes, sorry, Rezimir's eyes, this Urizeni Sentinel has just been fucking eaten. I'm getting repelled by it and impaled on its horns, and then the other Urizini around me are just getting butchered by the Grendel. It causes like an OC man down thing because obviously a player's just been crushed by a car. They're absolutely
Yeah,
fine, but they'd
but they're
stopped
okay.
underneath the head bit. They hadn't actually been run over by the wheels. But still, it was a fucking traumatic thing to see firsthand as a soldier. And we managed to recover from that. There was like some OC stuff, and we all sort of lay in part of the bodies, and the Imperials came and got us. So I think we were all okay. But still, unbelievably close call with a bloody land shark.
Yeah. Ostermere nearly got really taken out by it. So it was just after I had my leg healed. Um, Me and Blythe were like talking like fancy seeing you here kind of thing, and I just see Ostermere like taking this 2-on-1 with these Grendels, and it's like sort of steering towards him, but he doesn't see it because he's fighting, and so I think me and I don't know who else, it might be one of Wick's rest, just run to him and like push him out the way. We're like, you're gonna get crushed by this car. Um, and I think we just left it to the Imperials. I think we'd taken so much shit from the Sayaka like heralds that we were like, let's just go.
Yeah,
This
we were
isn't
done.
worth the bodies.
Yeah, it wasn't. And at this point, we confirmed we'd lost Slaramir and Michaeli and another member of Wick's Rest. And Gregor, who is also in Wick's Rest, came up to me in the forest as we're trying to regroup on the banner, tears in his eyes, and says, "Where is my son?" And I'm already crying from having to kill Michaeli. And it just breaks me on an IC and an OC level. It was very much like Theoden in the Two Towers saying, no parent should ever have to bury their child. And then he starts to weep. And just the look of hatred, abject hatred in Gregor's eyes was incredible. He was feeling this. Saying, where is my son? Full stop. And Rezimir having to process that, whilst also processing what he's just done to Michaeli, whilst also realizing that there are still other people missing and this isn't the end, whilst also processing that we need to get off this fucking field before we get killed. And Black Scar going, yeah, we've got everyone, we're all safe, right, let's go, let's leave, we're done, Pine Wheels, come on, let's go. We just sat there, broken. Morale is utterly shattered, and I think I said to you on the field, are you okay, Resume? And I said, I'm broken.
Yeah, because I hadn't seen any of this with Michaeli, and so I saw you looking really disheveled. And after me and Pete had our sort of healing moment, I actually managed to get Grigor like back to his feet because he had taken some hits. I think that's when he went off to you, so I followed him, missed that whole exchange, saw you walking off, and was like, "How are you doing?" You're like, "My will is broken," and I thought you just meant the battle had done it. Then we got through the gate, and you said, "You know, he's gone. Michaeli's gone," and we were just like, we just walked in silence until we saw Corwin. Ostermere joined us. Grigor came over for a brief second. And then I don't know if you were the same, but me and Ost turned to each other and we were like, this is another battle we've gone on with Navarre where we've lost our own. And so that rage at Navarre just crept back. And Grigor said it perfectly. He went up to Corwin and he was just angry. And he kind of left the field and it was it was really emotional because we had all of Black Scar coming over like, oh, the objectives were secure. This is really cool. You guys fought well. And we've just lost our brother, our cousin, and we had to leave the field knowing that he wasn't coming back with us, which was really tough.
Mm. And the follow-on impact of that as well, because Corwin's very happy with us. We've gotten him a plank. We've absolutely crushed it in the forest section, but on the final third of the battle, we've been decimated.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we get off the field, and of course, there's no group mourning or anything inside Varushka because they've been monstering against us. I'm pretty sure we ran into them at one point actually, and we just sat around our tent with one less person, and we
It's really
try and
horrible.
go. Oh, sorry, go on.
I remember um, before we head back to camp as well, we came through and other Danica from Wick's Rest and one of their healers, they didn't know that their friends had fallen. So they were coming out really happy with how the battle had went. And I've never had to break to anyone that their friends have died before, and I didn't know how to tell them because we've got all this guilt on us for actually hiring him in the first place, telling them it's going to be safe, you're all coming back home, and they didn't. And so we had to kind of just leave them there. And the way we kind of left it was they might come back through. They could be waiting for you at your camp. We're going to go back, uh, to mourn McKaylee. We'll come and see you guys later, just in case some people did make it back. And then we just had to go and sit with our grief for a while.
Yeah, and trying to approach Wick's Rest and Resimir not making a wise decision and saying, "Hey, we're so sorry. We've tied on our black. Oh, the worst thing is Slaramir had given us some black ribbons to protect
Mm.
us all before going on the battlefield, and now we had all these ribbons to remind us of him. And we tied two to the banner for Wick's Rest, and we went up to Gregor and said, could you tie one on for McKaylee? Because we are still one company, and we still have battles to fight." And Gregor turns around and goes, "You need to walk away right now."
Hang on, you're missing a very vital part of this exchange, and that's where you tried rehiring them for skirmishes coming up in the day,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't stop trying to hire them. And I remember turning to you like glaring at you because I was like, "These people are mourning, like resume, fuck off." And I was just like, I didn't know how to talk to them, and you weren't doing a very good job of it either. And so we just had to walk away because he really did not want us there. Um, and for him to turn around and tell us to sort of pretty much fuck off was hard to hear, but it was well deserved.
Yeah. Because we genuinely did have more fights
We
to
did,
go.
yeah, we'd promised numbers.
Yeah, we promised numbers and we'd already been paid for them and they had been paid for them as well. And I was like, I can't have the discussion with them later where I say, I'm going to have to dock your pay because you didn't show up.
The
Yeah.
funny thing about that though is later we found out that the sort of OC Fizz rep for Slavomir and that were behind their tent listening to the whole thing, and they sort of gave Grigor a thumbs up as we walked away, like, yeah, you showed them. It was really cute.
Yeah. Like the OC side, they'd had a great time and I think they're up for it again next time. We'll see. But IC, wow, we went from this family, an actual family, on the Friday night to a post Christmas dinner bust up times
Yeah,
10.
someone burnt the turkey. It
Yeah,
was
someone burnt the turkey, and politics got brought up at the dinner table again, and it ended up in a big shouting match, and yeah, all that other horrific classic large family Christmas stuff. But
yeah.
God, yeah, that
But
was heavy.
it was really heavy. But on the plus side, well, after we did sort of sit there for a while with our feelings, you should stumble into the Pinewheel camp, but a lone traveler looking for work. Surprise, surprise. Um, this strange Grigor shows up and
Another
asks to
Gregor.
join the Pinewheels. Yeah, a different Grigor. And obviously, IC, it's OC, it's our friend Ollie who just died with his iron helmet hand in his grip. But yeah, he comes and we hire him, and it's like, okay, we are Varushkins, we are wagon raiders, we carry on. And it's, I think you referred back to a speech that Cadwell gave the morning, previous, of no matter what losses we do, we have to go and fight for those who can't fight anymore. And I think you really stirred the Pinewheel, the resume really stirred the Pinewheels into continuing on. Um,
Yeah,
so
there was a family with a baby behind you, and unfortunately you didn't see it, but the others did. I said that is why we're fighting, and there was this mother with their less than 1 year old baby, 6 month old baby in their arms. We're fighting and we're dying so that that generation doesn't need to do the same. The second
mhm,
we give up is the second that he has to start dying. And really trying hard to believe these words, and it gets harder and harder over the weekend. But the principle of, yeah, we're getting absolutely battered, but if we give up, we guarantee losing. And if we don't give up, there is always a chance that we win. And really trying to hammer that home. And it worked this time, but I don't think it worked once we got to 8 o'clock.
Well, this your speech was really contrasted with one that I then had. I had a little sit down with Alderai, who was just their camp was just ahead of ours, and I saw them sat there looking very forlorn and pensive with their like morning mask on. I was like, actually, if there's anyone who knows about grief and losing, you know, conscripts and members and things, it's Alderai. So I went and sat down and had a really, cool chat with them about grief. And I mean, it wasn't very happy or uplifting. It was more the Empire has, Marushka to rot. So what do we have left to fight for? I'm not fighting this event. So, and it didn't really inspire me as much as Rezimir did. Um, but it was like, okay, Varushka is grieving and it's going to continue to live in grief if we don't do something about it. And the Pine Wheels had to march on. Varushka, I mean, we were very outside of what was happening in the nation, but I don't know if you've managed to catch up with anyone since, but they raised an army in like 6 hours. um, they managed to actually pull off making a new army, buying a new army, getting the money together. And so that was going on in the background. So watching the camp and the hearth just try and continue was quite inspiring alongside Resume's speech. Um, but I believe we then went back to chill with Corwin and have a little debrief.
Yeah, yeah, we go back and we explain the losses we've taken and that half of our force will no longer be showing up. And he's like, right, okay, well, we're gonna need to find some gap fillers, aren't we? So I haggle some more cash out of him, and we go off to hire some mercenaries.
Yeah, and I believe this is for the Valorn skirmish then at 2:30,
Yeah.
um, which I had so much fun. This is maybe the only skirmish that didn't end badly for the Pine Wheels for the whole weekend.
Mm.
Um, we go up to the gate. You guys are bounced off of it, weren't you?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah. So me and Os get on. We get to fight with Black Scar again. Um, and I've never seen the Valorn before, but it's like a fun day out when you're a heavy sort of soldier, and Ostomer had your wonderful like scary helmet on and Lamella, and we were the only two Varushkins on the skirmish. It was all like Navari, but it's just it's really fun to just go and chop down some zombies, and they move really slowly. They can get a little bit vicious if you turn your back on them, but it got to the point where me and Rizart sort of just turned to each other and were like, let's sort of see who can cut down these, and how many can you get versus how many can I get. And it was just a nice chance to role play with Black Scar again. And it wasn't very hard skirmish. We went in and out, but it was a nice time passer.
Yeah, the it's a very cool enemy for Navarre to fight because it suits them being like light
Mm,
infantry, and it's having been in Navarre's shoes against the Vlorn, it's fucking awesome. But yeah,
yeah,
as a heavy, it's a walk in the park. I don't think you got to fight the Schlachter of Rot at E4
no, no,
or
I
tail
didn't.
end of E3 maybe, but that was like Farushkin's version of a Forlorn skirmish. That was much harder. That was
Yeah.
those things were fucking lethal and scary. But
But I mean, these had like they're very slow moving. A couple of them had these weapons that sort of I don't know what they were. They had like chain and a bit of metal attached to it, so they could whip them round. Those were quite deadly. Like you had to be really careful with
oh, the
them
flails.
going for your yeah. Because they would go for your shield, then they'd pull that out of the way and go for your feet. And I don't really have much like leg armor, so that was the sort of we'll be careful there. But I got to fight quite a lot with Spider, who's one of our Black Scar friends, Blythe, and it was just fun to do that and have that interaction again. But me and me and Oz had such a fun time coming back. Like, yeah, these Navari, they're scared of everything that moves, and because it had been quite a lot of new players who didn't really know how to kill them, and neither did we. So it was just mowing them down together was really fun.
The uh the best thing against them is venom, and you have to execute them, otherwise they stand up again. I'm not going to tell you about the other
Yeah,
things they can do because you should find out
I
and
did.
play. But that those two things are very, very common. I think they're on the wiki
That would
level common.
explain. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would explain why there was a lot of executing going on.
yeah,
But we came out with a slight sort of miasma poisoning, which was healed up really quickly. Um, and then we went back to camp to get ready for the 4:30 skirmish.
yeah. The Druge wagon raiding skirmish. So we'd been
Yeah,
approached by someone in the nation, and I feel so bad because I'd forgotten
I
their
think it
name.
Ivana. I want to say Ivana, but that could be wrong.
I'm going to go with Ivana because that's better than my guess of I have no idea. And they'd come up to us and said, "Hey, you're the Pine Wheels or Wagon Raiders?" And we're like, "Haha, yes. Have you heard of us?" And they're like, "Yeah, okay. Anyway, cool. We've got a wagon raiding skirmish. You are wagon raiders. You're going on this skirmish, and this is the difference with like other nations that are large like Navarre, right? You are scrapping tooth and nail to get on the skirmish. In Varushka, if it's a Varushkan skirmish, of which there are not many, but the ones that we do get, we get on because we don't have a large
Mhm.
body of fighters, maybe 20 or 30 of us in total, and we got straight to the front of this. We go on. I think you are late for this
I
because you're
don't arrive at all.
yeah you are off in a tent having a nice time, I believe.
Yeah, so just before you guys set off, I saw Blythe walk past the camp, and I was like, "Oh, weird. He must be looking for me," and he was. And we ended up going to the Brass Coast and having like sort of date, I guess. And it was really cute. We got welcomed into um a really beautiful tent. I can't remember their name, but they welcomed us, very hospitality based and really peaceful. There's lots of blankets and things. And there's a role playing effect on that area where you kind of feel confident to speak the truth. And me and Blythe ended up having a real heart to heart about how we wanted our relationship to go and what we could offer each other.
Uh-huh.
Look like marriage or like a hearth magic thing. And then some soldiers come back, some Brass Coast warriors walk in, and they're talking about a skirmish they just went on that went badly. And they turn around and they say, yeah, a couple people fell behind enemy lines. Then I sort of perk up and I'm like, do you know if any of them were Varushkan? And they go, yep. And my stomach drops. And so I immediately am like, Blythe, this was lovely, but I have this horrible, horrible feeling. And I run back to camp. And I'm sure you can fill in what the horrible, horrible feeling was.
Yeah, so we're hell diving. We are hell diving into Druge held territory, and we are being led by the champion of prosperity. Their name will come back to me. I know the OC name, but I can't remember the IC name. Very famous player in the game, and we are actually struggling for numbers. We're meant to have about 75 people on, and I think we get 50 to 60. Os is with me. We actually rope Corwin in because he's walking by, and we're like, dude, just get on. We desperately need the numbers. Here's a sword, so he just goes ambi, and he's wearing his chain, luckily, so in he goes. We've got the new Gregor with us, who can't use a shield, and I thought Gregor could use a shield. So now we have a very heavily armored butcher with us, but at least he's the physic, right? So it's useful. And myself in the big heavy pointed helmet and Girthquake. And yeah, we go in, it's into the woods, we march up the field. The idea is we're meant to sneak up on this Druge camp, but they're ready for us. They've got watchers on the outskirts, patrols, and a pack of eticaps, three of them, I believe. And I remember saying to Oz, we're either going to win this quickly or lose it slowly. There's no in between with the Druge. And unfortunately, when we get up there, we power through their lines, they scatter, we catch a few, but we don't catch enough. And then they reform, and then they start just walking around behind us. The Freeborn are on our right flank. There's a big contingent of them, about 20. Maybe about 20 Varushkans and maybe about 20 other assorted marchers et al. And yeah, I don't know what happens, but we struggle to engage. The Eticaps come forwards and they're just going shatter, 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 shatter. We're losing weapons left, right, and centre. We haven't got any archers, so so the Druge archers are picking us off one by one. I have no idea what happened, but we start to fall back, and Os isn't there. He's I don't know what's happened to him, whether he's killed in a retreat or he's already been downed. But when we form up a second line, he's not there. The Druge come to us. They charge us again. We counter charge, and the fight is starting to go out of us. And then we start to fall back again. We lose another few people in the retreat. We charge again, lose another few people in the retreat, and then we get our backs to the gate. And we rally up everyone, literally everyone, and the Druze form the battle line against us. And it's about a 1-to-1 ratio. They're kind of just spread out. We could have taken them if we really pushed, but our morale is totally broken at this point. And Dubravka steps in, gets a charge going with Varushka, and the Freeborn go in. Like, we have to save those people because there's about 10 of them who are down. So in we go, and we're repelled. We rally
Yeah.
again. A minute later, like the Freeborn captain is saying it's time to go, and little specky Resimir says, "Well, actually, boss, we've only been here for 7 minutes. We've got time to try again." So we all rally and we try again, and we get repelled. And the champion of prosperity is downed and hacked to death, which is terrible for morale. We then attack again. We kill one Druge. We lose another Freeborn, who is then tortured in front of us. We charge again. We get the Freeborn back, but someone else gets shot in a retreat. So then we reform and charge again and pick them up. Maybe kill two or three more Druge in this process. And then we have a minute left, so we leave. And it's on paper, it is a unmitigated disaster. A champion dead, objective not achieved, and I think 15 to 20 Imperial casualties. Not least because we didn't have enough troops. We were meant to have a few more, but I think there was only 50 Druge or so it was actually a fair fight. Admittedly, the Eticaps were tough, but we had a champion on our side, so it's kind of a fair fight. But on the positive side of things, we rallied and charged 8 times across that battle. 8. I've seen it happen maybe once or twice before, but never 8. These Freeborn and Varushkans, even though we're massively demoralized, we did not break. We were the definition of unbreakable because we left the field of our own accord. We didn't flee, we withdrew, and we spent every minute prior to that trying to get our friends back, trying to recapture the ground, and we just couldn't. We just couldn't. It was devastating because me, Gregor, and Corwin were desperately trying to like bust a flank open or something because we're some of the heaviest on there. We're trying to get to Ostermere. We can't see him anywhere. We realise he's right at the top of the woods, and unless we get there in the next 30 seconds, he's gone. Almost certainly gone. And yeah, unfortunately, we couldn't do enough. And then that was our second Pinewheel casualty of the day, and the fourth overall. Yeah, really
How
rough
did it
battle.
feel? How did it feel for Resume, like leaving the field, another pine wheel down, and sort of again not being able to do anything about it?
It was really rough. Like, do you ever have those dreams where you're trying to rush somewhere, but your legs won't go fast, and you know
Yes.
you're out of time? It was that, but it was real. And that's why we rallied and charged, because we were desperately trying to break through them, and they were just better than us, and we just didn't want
Yeah.
to accept that. And then once we got out the gate, that was when it really hit Resume. For like, we have lost another one, and this is when the whole words of when we stop trying, we lose. Those are starting to get really shaky in his mind, and he's really starting to struggle.
I guess he's got to keep it together for the team as well. He's not just keeping himself together, but if he lets morale slip in the ranks, where does that leave him? Probably without a troop.
Fired. Yeah, because that's the thing is I've OC I've tried to really hard to set up a smirk group, and obviously everyone's having an OC good time, but I see this effort it's all falling apart. My troopers are dying left, right, and centre, and I've got to take responsibility because I'm in charge. It doesn't matter if it's my fault or not, but it's my problem. If it's not my fault, it certainly is my problem to fix, and it's also very personal because Resimir had met Oz at E3, and we'd spent a lot of time together at E4. And yeah, losing him was rough. Like, what I did to McKaylee was a mercy killing, and it didn't feel like it was my fault. It just felt like this is a shit battle, and at least I had some control over how it ended. And I know that
Yeah.
he didn't get eaten by fucking shark heralds, because that's a bad way to go. But Oz went with me into the woods and didn't come back, and that was my fault.
Yeah. It was I think one of the hardest things I've had to do in game is walk back into camp knowing that because me and Oz fought a lot side by side. He'd tend to like I tend to be his shield and he'd sort of go in with the heavy like actual sword skills. And walking back and seeing I think the first thing I heard was from you. It was where were you? Like Oz is dead. And just sitting down and like it got to the stage where I didn't even know how to like RP it because I was just so gutted to both IC and OC at the same time. And you started completely hammering me with what on earth could you have been doing, which was, more important than this. And that's when I realized Rez is actually taking this quite hard. Like, um, and then just the whole guilt of the day of like, you've lost Wick's Rest. That was your fault, because we invited them on the skirmish. We lost McKaylee, and now you were having a good time in the Brass Coast pretty much on a date. And, what your brother's sort of just gone and died. And sitting with that for like 5 minutes was really heavy. And it's sort of it's a case of like when you have grief, like and you don't know what to do with it, whether to get angry, whether to let it consume you, whether you use it to go ahead and build something. And that's what the Pine Wheels had to answer in that moment. And I think we all took from it, we have to band together. We have to sort of accept that each other makes mistakes and accept that whatever we do, it's probably for the good of the team. And like I remember like going into the tent and then just writing Blythe like a letter saying like this probably can't really continue. Like, yeah, we've got feelings for each other, but like the family come first, sort of thing. And then I think this is where we then go into like the end times at 8 o'clock, where the whole weekend just burns around us.
Yeah, the I think you've hit the nail on the head there of how do we go forward with such grief? Because I felt very IC and OC confident when McKaylee died of like, yeah, we've taken a bloody nose, but we gave
Mm,
them one back. And yeah, this is really shit, but we are going to get through this. We're still here. We're going to keep fighting and we're going to keep winning. And we'll do it for McKaylee kind of vibe. But then after getting smacked again, losing Oz, it was really, really tough. And like you said, anger there, Resume was angry because we didn't have enough people
mhm.
on that skirmish, and that was our fault. Where was our family? Where's our unit? It was very clear that we all had to be there at 4:30, and you can't, even though it is not your individual fault, you could have just been another casualty, right? But it always
Mhm.
feels that way. Is you don't blame the 20 people who weren't there filling those skirmish slots. You blame the one person you wanted to be there because it's grief.
Yeah,
It's not logical. And
yeah.
I think the Pine Wheels did a fantastic job of not turning on Resimir at that point because that's what he was
It was
afraid
it
of.
was it was hard not to because I remember like in the moment like Danica anyway thought that sort of like masking feelings as something that should like we were meeting together to like create an alliance to bring Black Scar and the Pine Wheels together, but actually that was like bullshit. It was sort of a mask for, oh, this could be a relationship. But when she had to sit there and explain it to Resimir, who was proper grilling, because you're a priest of
Prosperity.
prosperity,
Yeah.
yeah, and I had to answer to you, and you're my captain. So like those two loyalties started really conflicting, and then we had to go on a skirmish together. So you have to throw all that out the window to go in together. And I think maybe had we not had that skirmish, like if we had to sort of just dwell with that grief for a bit longer, it could have escalated. Um, and maybe we would have been butting heads a bit more over the weekend, but we had to just armor up and go get paid again, I guess.
We've got a job to do, and as
We've got a job to do.
has been said twice, the second we stop fighting is the second we lose. But
Um,
speaking of the seconds, we are at an hour and 4 minutes now, and I know that there's at least another hour to cover on what happens Saturday evening. So I propose we
yeah.
cut it there. We put this up, and then we continue talking about this another time very soon. I will take your silence as solemn acceptance that we've come to the end of our run.
Yeah, I mean, we need to prepare ourselves for the clusterfuck that was Saturday evening.
Yeah, because dear listeners, it does get worse. But on that bombshell, thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you in another episode very soon. Bye.
Goodbye.